Hi everyone, we're picking up on Daf Dalud Amud Base. I've shared with you the screen here. So we were asking why it is we need the posuk of Chag HaMatzah, Chag HaShavuos, and Chag HaSukkos, according to different opinions, and therefore we saw that according to opinion one, Hekesh Lelina, just as Pesach has Lina, so to the other Yom Tovim have Lina. But Tanakama of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Tashlum Naseres ben Nolo, who had they have Tashlum Fatzeres. So we say because Amar Torah Mona Yom v'Kadish Chodesh Mona Yom v'Kadish Atzeres. Just as Rosh Chodesh is the length of Rosh Chodesh is celebrated according to the time period we build up to it, that we count towards, i.e. we count in days, and therefore Rosh Chodesh is in days. Therefore Shavuos, which is counted in weeks. Therefore there's an element of Rosh Chodesh, of Shavuos that has a celebration of a week, i.e. that not the celebration itself, but there's a afterglow of the chag that you can bring the karbonos. So you have a week of tashlumin to bring the karbonos, and then we ended off last time with this idea that there's a mitzvah limimnim yomi, the mitzvah limimnim shvuya, the idea of counting days and counting weeks. Here we are in the middle of Sfiras Omer. I did that. They both count the days and we count the weeks. That's how we do it. Hayom Yom X and Shehem X Shavuos. We even suggest there's a Beis Halevi that says maybe there's two mitzvahs, a mitzvah to count a day and a mitzvah to count a week, and therefore if you lose the counting of days, you maybe still be able to count with the bracha when it comes to a week. We don't paskin like it, but an interesting suggestion based on this idea that there may be these two independent mitzvahs of Sphira of the days and the Sphira of the weeks. We pick up here, which is 2, 4, 6 lines before the bottom, as Mike already raised, the issue of Pesach. So Pesach Zimno Kaviyale. So if we look back at Daf Gimel on the base, and we discuss the various things that have Baal Ta'achet on Rabban on the screen here, the bottom 2 lines. Chayav Edomim da 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 da. Bechor Umasa Pesach. Pesach is one of the things that has Baal Ta'achet. So Gemara asks, Zimna Kaviyale, what do you mean Baal Ta'achet of Pesach? All these other carbonos, you donate something to the Beis Hamikdash. You have a carbon that you're supposed to bring, but it's not fixed to a certain time. We're told, okay, after a certain passing of a number of chagim, 1 chagim, 2, 3 in order, Pesach at the first, whatever it may be, then there's Baal Ta'achet. And it doesn't make sense to include Pesach in this list, because Pesach has got one chance, the chance to bring Pesach on the 14th day of Nisan, what we call Erev Pesach, which is really Chag HaPesach in the Torah. Chag HaMatzos is the 7-day Yontif week. Cool Pesach, that confusing, and therefore, so Gemara says, meaning if you brought the carbon Pesach in its right time, you brought it on the 14th of Nisan, then you brought it well and good. And if you don't, what do you mean there's Baal Ta'achet? There's no, you can't bring the carbon Pesach on Shavuos or on Sukkot. So I don't understand why Pesach can be included in Baal Ta'achet. That's the Gemara's question here. Answers the Gemara, no, Omer Rav Chisda, Pesach Gedei Naspa. It's just included in the list. It's thrown in, but it's what we might say lav dafka, that indeed you're right. It's not precise. Indeed, the Gemara, the Brisa there never meant Pesach specifically. And you're right. It doesn't have Baal Ta'achet like other carbonas. Continues the Gemara. Rav Sheshes Amar. Rav Sheshes posits a different suggestion, another answer. Rav Sheshes' answer is that my Pesach shall make Pesach doesn't mean the Pesach, the carbon Pesach itself, but rather it means the Shlomim, the peace offerings that were brought alongside the Pesach. So what's the case here? So Rashi understands it to be Shalmei Pesach with Shaloi Kara Bizmano, Sha'avad v'nischape ba'acher hu na'asa Shlomim. So what's the case? Basically, you set aside a carbon, you set aside something to be brought as a carbon Pesach, and then the animal got lost, absconded, whatever, it got mixed up. So what do? You bring another, you set aside another carbon, and then you find the other carbon, you find the original carbon, it becomes a shalomim, and therefore that's what we're talking about. Basically, it's the carbon Pesach that was at one point a carbon Pesach, but you then legitimately switched over to a different carbon Pesach. The other carbon, now it's already been designated a carbon Pesach. It doesn't become nothing. It doesn't become a regular animal. It gets downgraded into a regular shlomim. It's not a carbon Pesach, it's a shlomim offering. And that has to be brought, like other shlomim, you have until 3 Yomim Tovim as we paskin to bring it. That is also how Tosfos understand it. Okay, so he is explaining it. There is another approach here, I seem to recall, that Shalmei Pesach, where people would bring extra karbonos. It could be as a reference to a chagiga. It would bring chagigas yudalet. They would bring a shlomim that would be brought alongside the carbon pesach, because we know the carbon pesach, like our afikomen, has to be eaten ala seveya. You have to eat it whilst you're satisfied. You can't break a bone. It has to be eaten not in a haste, not when you're ravagingly hungry. So therefore they would bring other carbonos, chagigas yudalet, shlomim, alongside the carbon pesach in order to provide enough meat, enough dinner to everyone at the Seder, that they'd have their main meal on these other carbonos, and then they would have as their dessert, as sort of the last kazais of the night, they would have their carbon pesach. So possibly we're talking about that. The Pesach here, the Shalmei Pesach, is those chagigas, is those carbonos brought alongside the carbon pesach in order to pad out, to make more meat at those Seder nights. Then you would have the regular chagiga, the Olas V'iyah and the Shalmei Simcha brought on the next day, on the first day of Pesach, on the 15th of Nisan. Gemara says, "Yehochi Hainu Shlomim." Okay, so we now deduced that we can't be talking about the carbon Pesach because it's either brought on the 14th or it's not brought at all. Even though I saw already in the Mefarshim, we have an idea of Pesach Sheni. So maybe that's what we're talking about. A person had a carbon Pesach and he didn't get to Yerushalayim for whatever reason. He became Tomei and he couldn't bring his carbon Pesach the first time. And then he's going to bring it Pesach Sheni. Even so, you're never going to have 3 Yomim Tovim. I guess that question is on the Gemara's point, is if you don't bring it on the 14th of Nisan, it's lost. Well, not necessarily true. There is a possibility of Pesach Sheni, although whether that carbon, if you had set aside a carbon, Pesach Rishon, whether you could use it for Pesach Sheni is another discussion altogether. Nonetheless, the Gemara says, Yehochi Hainu Shlomim. So we've deduced, we're not talking about the carbon Pesach, we're talking about either a carbon Pesach that was lost and he designated another one, then he got the original one which became a Shlomim, or we're talking about, as I said, these Chagigas, these Shlomim that were brought alongside the carbon Pesach. The Gemara says, therefore, Tana Shlomim, Haboy Machmas Pesach. The Gemara's question is, why do I need both? We already know that Shlomim have Baal Ta'acher. So why are we teaching me that both the Shlomim because of Pesach and the Shlomim regularly both have Baal Ta'acher if you delay bringing them within, not within 3 Yom Tovim? The Gemara says, the last line of Dalit on the base, I might have thought to say, Hayol Nachmas Pesach Ka'asu. This Shlomim is somehow linked to the carbon Pesach. It is either a replacement carbon Pesach or it comes alongside the carbon Pesach, Pesach Damu. Therefore, they are absolutely like the carbon Pesach. And therefore, what? Just as carbon Pesach itself has no makeup time. If you don't bring it on the right time, it's lost. Therefore, I might think these Shlomim as well. You don't bring it on Erev Pesach in its right time frame. You've lost the opportunity. Answers the Gemara, and this is the Brisa telling us, no, you have Baal Ta'acher, you have at least 3 Yomim Tovim, or max 3 Yomim Tovim to bring it. So now we go back to a more fundamental question, and the question is, where do I know this whole idea of Baal Ta'acher from? From where do I know that you have a prohibition of delaying bringing your karbonos? And furthermore, how do I know from the Torah that it applies to all these various groupings, these various things? So let's look at the pasuk here. The pasuk here in the side of Gemara, the Torah, Hashanah pasuk in the Devarim test. Where is it? Kaf Gimel? Where is it? It's not clear enough. Where is the pasuk? The pasuk is Devarim Kaf Gimel, which I think is a pasuk in Parashas Kiseitze or Shoftim. So Torah tells us, if you will make a vow to God, God your Lord, you should not delay to pay it up. God will surely seek it from you, and there'll be a sin upon you if you fail to bring it, the carbon Pesach in its right. These carbonot, all these things, and your donation in the right time. Gemara says, Kisido neder, any other neder nedav b'nayin. So, okay, we have neder, a vow. Gemara Megillah already tells us the difference between a vow and a nedava, a donation. A vow is when you link it to oneself, meaning hare olai. Behold, I am vowing to bring a sacrifice to the temple, and the dove says, I vow to bring this animal. What's the difference? If this animal dies, I'm no longer chayav to bring. However, if it's a neder, it's a vow. Even if this animal dies, I'm still obliged to bring because it's not about this specific animal. So the Gemara says the pasuk is in neder. It's explicit about a vow. What about a nedava? What about a donation? A more voluntary donation of a sacrifice. So Mala alon nedava imo akan nedava imo. Gemara says we've got a pasuk that tells us that the name of alon neder nedava ma alon nedava imo akan nedava. And someone mute the mic because there seems to be some noise in the background. Okay, yeah, the pasuk says in Vayikra Zayin, V'imneda onedava zevach karbono. Mike, you're on twice, I think. V'imneda onedava zevach, your phone is also. V'imneda onedava zevach karbono. It means imneda onedava. It links neda and nedava. So you see, there's a link between the two. Therefore, so to here, even though the Torah tells me only imneda, it only mentions the idea of a neder. So it will be the same case when it comes to a nedava, that if it's the more voluntary type of carbon donation, that will also be included in the prohibition of Ba'al Ta'acha. The Gemara says, the verse continues, you're going to donate this donation to God. So these are the various donations that one gives to the Beis HaMikdash, whether it be domim, the me'olai, my value on the market, ha'erchin, the value the Torah sets according to people and their different ages and their different genders, v'acharomim, your chayrim, something you donate it to the Beis HaMikdash, to the hagdosh, matish something, donate it to the bedek habayis, to the general pot of donations to the Beis HaMikdash. All of them have lo sacha. Lo sacha l'shalmo. You should not delay to pay it up. So we learn from here that it's on this specific animal, on this specific donation, and not chilufov, not on something you sort of switch it over to. So you could sometimes, switch. You could transfer the hekdesh, the carbon from one animal to another animal, from one money to another money. It's the Baal Tachas on the original thing, not on the other thing. Well, Gemara will explain what that exactly means. Kidoro shidrashenu. So the verse continues. For God will surely seek it out. What does that mean? Elu chatos va'ashamos olos ushlamim. These are the sin offerings. The ashamos, the guilt offerings. The olos, the burnt offerings. Ushlamim, and the peace offerings. So Rashi says, chatos va'ashamos she'en nidroshim im chashay choyva henutonim alecha. That means, what do you mean nidroshim? The verse that they're sought out from you. God demands them. Them demands because these are obligations. You have to bring a sin offering. You have to bring a guilt offering if you've transgressed and those specific things, if you fall into those categories. What about olos ushlamim? Where do we see burnt offerings, and where do we see peace offerings that are doroshit doroshenu, which are obliged, which are sought out from you, which you have to bring? From here, Rashi says, you go olas re'iyah v'shalom chagiga. So there are certain festival sacrifices, the burnt offering and the peace offerings, which you have to bring. They're chiyuvim, they're obligations to be brought on the festival. That is the opinion of Rashi. The Ritva says, well, if it's a Shalmi Chagiga and a Asriya, well, they have to bring it brought on that Yontif. You don't have 3 Yomim Tovim. You have to bring, if you don't, you can't like say, oh, I'm supposed to be bringing the carbon on first day Pesach or over Sukkot or over Shavuos. I won't bring it over Shavuos. I'll bring it on Sukkot. How does that make sense? If you have to bring the carbon on that Yom Tov, you don't have 3 Yom Tovim. You don't have 3 festivals to make up for it. So how can it be referring to the obligatory sacrifices for each and every festival? So the Ritva explains that we're talking about someone set aside animals in general, to be used for these korbanot, for these sacrifices, these festive sacrifices, but it doesn't say, it's not specifying that it's for this festival or that festival, it's for a festival. They're going to be used, so therefore, indeed, you have 3 Yom Tovim now to use it. Once you've set them aside, once you've makdish them, once you've sanctified them for this purpose, you now have 3 festivals at maximum to donate them. It's not talking about ones you set aside to be used on a specific Yom Tov, or you had to bring on a specific Yom Tov, because once that Yom Tov is over, you've lost that opportunity to bring the festive sacrifices for that specific Yom Tov. The Turei Even, however, suggests that we're talking about a very different Shlomim and a very different Olah. And he said this is the Shlomim and the Olah, that's this week's Parsha. That's brought by the Zov, the Zova, the Yoledes, and Metzora. If you read this week's Parsha, the beginning is about a Yoledes or a Zova or a Zova. After they emerge from their period of rich and impurity, they have to bring certain sacrifices, a burnt offering and a peace offering. And we have this week, the woman doesn't have enough money, she can, instead of bringing an animal, she can bring birds. Then they have the Metzora, the same thing with the Metzora and a Nazir. At the end of their period, and Metzora at the end of their period of purification, and Nazir at the end of their period, of their Nazirite period, they have to bring certain karbonis, an Olah and a Shalomim. And that's what we're talking about. They're obligatory. Okay, they're not always necessarily applicable to everyone. Don't know if anyone in this school is ever going to be a Yoledes, is ever going to be a woman of childbearing woman. But whatever, once you're in that situation, they indeed are obligatory, and therefore Doroshi Doreshenu, they can be learned out from that segment of the pasuk that these are the things that God demands of you. What are these? These include Shlomim and Olah, either to do the karbonis of the Yom Tov, or here to do with the Metzora, Yoledes, and Nazir, and Zov. So they also have a Baal Ta'achar applying to them. Continues the Gemara. Where are we? Yeah. Hashem Elokecha. So it said the verse continues, for surely Lord your God will seek them out. What do we learn out from the word Hashem Elokecha here by the Kasa? So these are references to charity and tithings and the firstborn animal that you have to give. Again, that refers Hashem Elokecha, reference to that which you're donating to God for the sake of God. Rashi explains here, to Hakra Yisera. It's an extra pasuk. It's an extra pasuk. 1 second, I'm just going to get a charger for my laptop. Excuse me, this. I'm running down on the battery. So Rashi says, how do we see this? So Rashi here on the side, the Hakroi Serahu. So already it's an extra verse. To have a leila michta kidorosh dreshenu. So it will surely be sought out. Therefore, from the extra words of Hashem Elokecha, we learn out Tzedakos and Maisos. And then Rashi goes on to reference it, but the other Rishonim spell it out explicitly. All these mitzvahs, Tzedakah, Maisa, tithing, and Bechor, in their presentation in the Torah, all refer to Hashem Elokecha, being for the Lord your God, the donation for Hashem. Therefore, the word Hashem Elokecha here is a sort of a catch-all, or really a buzzword referencing to these specific donations. Me amcha, the final thing, in the end of the passage we say, God is going to seek it out for you, me amcha, from amongst your people. So what does that mean? Me amcha ze leket shecha b'peah. That is the things that are left over in the field that you have to leave for the poor person amongst your people. And therefore, it's a reference to tell us that from here we see that there's Baal Ta'achar, not delaying the Korbanos, apply even to these various aspects these various mitzvahs. Yep.
We said Massas were Massa Behema, is that right?
No, Massa here is general Massa, and the Bechor here, Maisa is Maisa Behema. No, it's also Massa. We discussed this, if you remember. Tosfos already discussed this in where the Tosfos, here Maisvus, and the Tosfos in the bottom of what daf is this? Daled Amud Aleph. Tosfos asked the question. Could go Maisa Rishon, Maisa Sheina, Maisa Ani, all the Maisvus, all the tithings. Oh, what about the issue of, we have the posuk in anyone who was over Yontif doing the laning in Parshas in Aser Ta'aser. And I would have done it on, this year we wouldn't have Asad Aser Ta'aser because it would have been Kala B'char, whatever. But that laning, you have Shnas Shalosh. It's only after the third year they have this birat of the you have to burn you have to real deal with the Maisus at the end of 3 years. So we Tosfos dealt with that. Maybe there's 2 levels of Avera. Maybe there's the essay and the Lois essay.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We'll come to this. So we discussed this issue of the Maaseh. Is it after 3 Yom Tovim? Is it immediate? That's one opinion. Immediate. Is it after 3 Yom Tovim? Only after the 3rd and 6th year of the cycle, the one has really got an obligation to deal with the Maisus they have not given.
And what's tzedakos?
Pardon? Charity. Oh, the Tosfos dealt with tzedakah. Charity. I received my I'm going to give 100 quid to Shomrei Adas. If 3 Yom Tovim pass by, I haven't given it. That's when Baal Tacha. Again, Tosfos raised the question. The Rishonim will discuss. Tzedakah seems to be immediate. If you promise to donate, you can't. You sat at a charity dinner. Okay, I'm going to give £1,000, and then they come for the money that you say, I hold Rosh Hashanah, it's 3 Kasidron. You're not going to get it for 18 months. So tzedakah seems to be immediate. So again, Tosfos dealt exactly what the Issa of Baal Ta'ach on tzedakah is going, and who's it on. If I give it to the charity then failed to give it out, is that my problem? Probably not. So again, we dealt with that on 2 daf ago, at the beginning of the sugya on tzedakahs. Now that we're not doing them on Shabbos, they are all recorded and available for to recap. Right. Subscribe, and I feel like a YouTuber. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll get our shiurim there. Okay. Let's go weiter in Gemara. So Gemara says, where the cursor is, that the verse ends, and it will be for you a sin if you delay. So what does it say? For you a sin, meaning the sin is on you and not on the karbonos. What does it mean the sin is not on the carbon? Meaning it doesn't invalidate the carbon, it doesn't invalidate the masha, it doesn't invalidate the charity. It's not like 3 Yom Tovim passed. Oh, that thing I was going to give to the Beis Hamikdash, but I can't give it anymore. No, you can still give it. The donation is still a good donation. The mass is still good mass. The carbon is still a good carbon. So I think someone raised this before. Like, what happens after 3 Yom Tovim? What happens is there's still a good carbon. But it's meaning it's you. The sin is you. What's the hava amina? So Tosfos deals with the hava amina. Maybe it's a mitzvah haba ba'avera, right? So we have a general principle that, a mitzvah haba ba'avera. You can't fulfill a mitzvah by means of doing an avera. I think, maybe in London today, to make a minyan in a shul is a mitzvah haba ba'avera. I think it's in Isra now for everyone to gather in shul. That's an avera, clearly. So there's no mitzvah of the minyan. The minyan doesn't count. The brachas of Allah. I think most folks will agree with that. That's a mitzvah haba ba'avera in a COVID scenario. The Gemara talks about if you steal food and make brachas on it. Well, whether that's a mitzvah above avera, we're not going to get into the sugya. It's a bit of a complicated sugya, exactly the hagdaras. The Gemara in brachas talks about that in a bracha element night. But you steal. There's classic cases in sukkah. You're going to get to it, Lionel, in your share. I think it's lulav arav. It's the 3rd peret. Lulav hayavesh v'hagazel, the stone and lulav. That's a classic case of mitzvah above avera. You steal a lulav and then you want to go ahead and make a mitzvah with it, make a bracha and fulfill the mitzvah with the lulav. Doesn't work. The lulav is a stone and lulav. It's not yours. And that's a mitzvah above avera. So that's Tosfos here says here. Vaya b'chol chet. Where is he? Where is this Tosfos? I don't know where the Tosfos is. So Tosfos ma. Tosfos dibur hamaschel ma. Yeah, ma ma se enes lebeshon echaveh to pirish bekunde the chilek mixer. Yeah, they bechula shmaite mehecha tasted on the nissel. What means we had a havamina. We had a thought that maybe if you delay bringing these karbanos or these donations, that somehow they themselves become apostle. They themselves become redundant. It's obvious that they don't become redundant. So Tosfos already raises this question, and the Achronim deal with it. And the Achronim, maybe it's even Rashi. Am I forgetting that it's Rashi? It's not explicit, but I think what the story here is mitzvah ba'avera. in the reality, what happens is there's two separate things. As I said, you have to bring this masa, you have to bring these karbonos within 3 Yomim Tovim. If I fail to, what happens? Baal ta'acher. So what does that mean? Baal ta'acher meaning I've lost the opportunity, the carbon is gone, I can't bring the carbon anymore? Or no, the carbon is still good, you still have to bring the carbon, but Baal ta'acher. You've now got an ancillary sort of, impressed on top, a separate avera you've transgressed called Baal ta'acher. That's what we learn from this pasuk. Yeah, Baal ta'acher kicks in. It's an interesting one. You've done the avera. You can't get out of it now. Even if you bring the carbon after 3 Yomim Tovim, you've still got the avera Baal ta'acher. You can't rectify that now anymore. But nonetheless, the carbon still has to be brought. The mass has to still be given. The nations to the base Hamikdash still belong to the base Hamikdash. So let's just do a few more lines in Gemara. So we said when we said lo sa'achel l'shalom, you shouldn't delay to bring it, but not it. Something it's exchanged for. So chilufei mai. So what are we talking about? Chilufei oilo shlamim mikri krivi. So let's say you have a carbon with sort of shlamim, right, or an ola, and then it got switched. It's an avera. It's tamura. The whole masech of tamura. You're not allowed to do a tamura. You're not allowed to say, you know what, I like this cow, I like this sheep, I don't actually want to bring it as a carbon. I want to keep it for myself. It looks like I can get a juicy steak. I'll make this much more ugly looking and lean looking cow the carbon. You can't do that. So if you go ahead and sanctify the carbon and try to switch it, what happens is they're both the carbon. So what we learn, if you're switching a shlomim and an olah, they both become a carbon and they both have to be offered up. So why shouldn't Baal ta'acher apply to both? It will apply to both because both are carbonos, both are shlomim, both are olas. Gemara says, okay, I'll tell you what it is. It's chilufei chatos lemisa asla. If it's a chatos, you kill the animal. The animal dies. Therefore, there's no Baal ta'acher that could apply to it. It doesn't survive that long. Elamai chilufei toda. We're talking about a toda. You had a carbon toda that died, and now you took another carbon instead. I think that's how Rashi understands it. The Kagoshin is Abba Barishayna. So no, maybe does it die? No, it doesn't die because then it would switch over. So we're talking about Chilifei Toida. Yeah. So sorry. What happened is that you had a Toida, then you tried to transfer and make another carbon a carbon Toida instead of it, which you're not allowed to do. So what happens? Like a Shlomim and an Ola, they both become a Toda. Now one of them dies, you don't know which one it is, and the other one gets mixed up in a herd of other animals. So you're a bit stuck. The Gemara is going to explain it here. You're a bit stuck. Why are you stuck? So Toda shenisarva betumurosa and meisa achas mehen. So sorry, you have a Toda and a Tumura. You had a Toda, you tried to transfer it onto another Toda, which you're not allowed to do. They both become a Toda. You don't know which one is which, so they get switched up amongst themselves. Umesa. Now one of them dies. So Einot Akanta. The other one has no solution. Because Heichine of it. What are you going to do? Likreve v'likrev lechem bahada. So you'll bring it up as a carbon Toda. Well, they're both carbon Todas. But I'll bring it as a carbon Toda, but wait a minute, and I'll bring it with the lechem, with the bread, the motumurahi. Maybe it's not the real carbon Toda. Maybe it's what you try to transfer as a carbon Toda. It's vested with Kedusha, but it's not the Toda. And therefore, when you bring the bread along with it, it won't be a proper carbon. You'll be bringing bread on the Mizbeach. You'll be offering the Toda bread, not rightly, because you don't have a Toda. You're not offering a Toda. You're bringing a Tumura up. And Velikrev Vedilma Tumura, maybe it's okay. I'll bring it as if it was a Tumura. I'll just bring it as a carbon. Likrev Below Lechem, and I'll offer it without the bread of the Toda. Maybe this actually the animal that you have alive is really the Toda. It's really maybe it's the real Toda, and they have to add, and you can't bring it without the bread. It doesn't work. A carbon Toda doesn't work without the bread. The Gemara says, so that's what we're talking about. We say, the Gemara says, meaning we're talking about it and not its chilufa, meaning the carbon itself, the original Toda has Baal ta'acher. The chilufa, meaning this Tumura, doesn't have a Baal ta'acher. And how could it be that you have it lasting for 3 Yomim Tovim? because we have this situation where I don't know what to do with it. But the Gemara says an obvious question. So, so well, wait a minute. If I now can't bring it, why do I need a posuk to tell me that it doesn't have Baal Ta'acher? Of course it doesn't have Baal Ta'acher, because as we just established, there's no way to bring this carbon. We said the original carbon total would have a Baal Ta'acher, but not this, and this switched out for carbon total, which we're not sure whether it is really this carbon total or not the carbon total. Well, we can't bring it. So why do I need a posuk to tell me there's no Baal Ta'acher with this? There couldn't be Baal Ta'acher anyway, because I have no way to bring it, and therefore it doesn't make sense that you would have after 3 Yom Tov, if you don't bring it, you're over Baal Ta'acher, but I can't bring it anyway, so what do you want me to do? So the Gemara says rather another solution. We're really coming to talk about the carbonas that were switched, or you tried to switch on the Oilo Shlomim. So what we're talking about here, so we're talking about there was 2 Yom Tovim that you have an Oila or Shlomim, and there was 2 Yom Tovim, the original Oila, the original Shlomim. 2 Yom Tovim passed, v'humam. Then there was a mum. This animal became blemished, and they now can't be brought as a carbon. So therefore, rightly, you're allowed to now switch onto another carbon. I transferred it onto another animal. And now I've had another Yom Tov pass by. I might say, since this second animal, this replacement animal, is only there by dint of the fact that it's replacing the original animal, I might say you amalgamate the Yom Tovim. 2 Yom Tovim pass for the original animal. Now 1 more Yom Tov for this replacement animal. 3 Yom Tovim together. Hey presto, Baal Ta'acher comes along the pasuk and says, "Hu v'lo chilufav." The clock starts again, or the clock stops altogether. Meaning, we don't say you add up the original carbon that became a Baal Mum, it became blemish, and you replace it, and therefore you have 1 more, and you've got a problem. Okay, that's the case we're talking about. You wouldn't have Baal Ta'acher, you wouldn't transgress after that 1 more Yom Tov in this case. After Gemara. So command of that not. Or Rabbi Meir, or Rabbi Meir is of the opinion 1 Yom Tov, even after 1 Yom Tov you're over Baal Ta'acher. So what's the case? What happened was you had an animal that became a Baal Mumma, that became blemished in the middle of Yom Tov. The Chilu on another one, you transferred it and you replaced it with another animal. And then the rest of Yom Tov passed by and you failed to bring it up as a carbon. So again, since the second animal is a replacement of the first, you might say, well, it's all one thing, and therefore once 1 Yom Tov passed over, even though this animal was only made the carbon halfway through, once that first Yom Tov passes, it's over in Baal Ta'acher according to Rabbi Meir, Kamash Malon, that it's Huvelei Chilufav, the original animal. It has to have the passing of Yom Tovim, but not the replacement, animal. Let's just see a few more lines just to finish the sugya. Okay, so we will we're going to stop here.